What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here for our round 2 showdown stream for this week's Byron Nelson. For round 1, a lot of it I was out on the golf course, so happened to just track there on Shot Tracker, but caught up on most of the headliner players in the field in terms of their shots gained metrics, and frankly, really looking forward to tomorrow. It's much easier conditions than even today. So if you thought there was a birdie fest today, just wait until tomorrow. I mean, the wind is going to be in the single digits for much of the day, and I would expect a scoring average close to maybe even 3 under par. So very well could be a 5 under cut line, at least 4 under par, I would imagine. So certainly going to see some fireworks there on a Friday. In fact, if you have guys at even par or 1 over par, they're just that ceiling performance away from the cut. So there's some guys that obviously going to be dead out there, but also you're going to see some guys vault up the leaderboard. Guys like Jordan Spieth, Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas at -4 could very well be in the top 5 come Saturday morning. So it'll be very exciting to see tomorrow. So first off, let's talk about the round today, what we saw. And like I said, the win today is going to, was much more significant than what we're going to get for Friday. It was 15 to 20 miles an hour for much of the afternoon, and we had a 1.8 under par scoring average, right around there. Now, if we split it by wave, you'll see it was a little bit more difficult in the afternoon, and that was to be expected. We thought that going into the week. We were trying to target some of the guys on prize picks that were playing in the morning, and trying to fade some of the guys playing in the afternoon, that sort of thing. So it was good to see that held up, that sort of thing. But for tomorrow, there's not going to be wind pretty much at any point. So here on Thursday, you can see the wind was, of course, a little bit more stagnant in the morning, a little bit more severe towards the afternoon wave. Here on Friday, it's in the single digits for much of the day. And then in the afternoon, you can see it's just 10 to 12 miles an hour. That's not really anything to fret about out there. But more significantly, the gusts are pretty much non-existent. The gusts, you can see they pretty much align with the actual sustained winds for much of the day there. So in general, I would expect scoring conditions to perhaps be 2.5, perhaps even 3 under par based on how they played today. I mean, there were a few outliers in terms of shots over par. If you remove some of those, some of them were the Monday qualifiers, a few of the sponsorship exemptions. That, no offense, right? They're a little bit low quality players, right? They're in the field to get them a little bit of exposure. The scoring average is really well past 2 under par. So I would expect something even better than that for tomorrow. Let's hop into the player pool. We'll catch up on chat. Nick Mars says, what happened with Willie Z? Last time I saw, he was even par, so no idea. I would imagine the putter didn't work out for him. He's a very volatile putter, that's for sure. But again, I didn't really track that. He was chalk, just waiting to bust this week, to be honest with you. He's hometown kid, right? A lot of people wanted to play him for that reason. And he's got a volatile putter, and you got a birdie fest, right? It's very frustrating for somebody like John Rahm, who, when he doesn't have the putter, even if the ball striking is there, he can't score. And you saw that today, right? Going into the week, putting was important. It was a huge part of my modeling, and that's exactly why. Even if you have the ball striking, the putting escapes you. It's a little bit of a fool's errand. You're pretty much, no matter what, not going to score. It's a little bit surprising, right? Of late, he has been gaining with the putter, so I think that's why so many people were excited to play Will Zalatoris, right? But if we zoom out the last 50 measured rounds, while it's still been decent, you can see now he's in the negative, right? Just a slight negative there. And the further and further that you zoom out on Will Zalatoris, the further into the negative that he goes. So certainly had some momentum with the flat stick, but that was kind of a landmine waiting to happen. I ended up having 25%, which pretty much ended up matching the field this week. I didn't want my week to be either made or broke by Will Zalatoris, because I certainly got the play. He was a really good course fit. Like I mentioned, I couldn't fade him completely because he was such a good pick, right? He had that momentum with the putter, but I also couldn't go all in on him because he really shouldn't have been chalk, and like I said, the putter concern. So I still think he has a chance if he's even par, right? Like I said, you're going to see plenty of ceiling rounds tomorrow, especially with the wind down. I wouldn't be too worried about it. I mean, even somebody like Sam Burns, he's 1 over par. He goes out there, he plays like he should. He should shoot something in the 5-6 under range in the super receptive conditions in the morning. Also, when it's extremely low winds, I wouldn't be too worried about those guys. Watch them on their front 9 tomorrow. If they start 3-4 under par, something like that, You could probably, start to relax a little bit. They're probably going to make the cut. Now, if they start off even par through 9 holes, right, then you can start to worry about those type of players. All right. Let's any other comments down there? Nick says, I like him better next week. I agree. The guy's a major championship type of player. Same thing with Xander, right? Xander today, I would imagine that Willie Z had a similar day to Xander Schauffele, right? Xander Schauffele was on the ESPN coverage. I saw it this morning. He wasn't playing bad golf. He was hitting pretty much every fairway. He got himself in, a bad spot, once or twice during the round. But he was hitting a lot of greens. He just couldn't buy a putt for his life. And Xander's a really solid putter, right? So you wouldn't expect that. Willie Z could have had that same type of day. And if he brings the putter tomorrow, right, Xander could have easily shot 7 under par today. That's how solid his ball striking was. So I'm a little bit worried about Xander, right? We faded him. So hopefully he doesn't have the putter tomorrow, but same thing could happen with Willie Z. But I do definitely like him a little bit more next week. Same thing with Xander Schauffele because it's not a birdie fest. You don't have to have that putting. If you have the ball striking, it is tenfold more important at a major championship than having that flat stick. So I certainly agree with you there. Steven is in the house. What is going on? And Pro Reactor says there is a lot of chalk guys struggling. Yeah, off the head, Sam Burns, Taylor Gooch, they were the 2 pieces of chalk I have that are really bothering me. But I know Adam Hadwin is 2 over par. Willie Z is a piece of chalk. I guess you could qualify as struggling there at even par. He might be over par now. I don't know. I'm assuming Nick, based on Nick's response, he might have actually done a little bit worse. Maybe he didn't birdie the last hole. That was a relatively easy par 5. There's a lot of chalk struggling. And there's a lot of lower owned plays like a Dustin Johnson, a Hideki Matsuyama, for example, that are absolutely going off. So if you're somebody that just played pure game theory this week, super high owned guys, you just default faded. You went out there, just played some of the guys that were going to be lower owned. You're probably sitting in a really good spot right now. So it's certainly looking like that type of week right now. But like I said, could completely flip tomorrow because we're going to hop into the player pool here, guys. You're going to see just an insane amount of 7 to 8 under rounds tomorrow. I would imagine we might break a scoring average record tomorrow in terms of shots to par at this golf course. Not in terms of raw score. It's a par 72. But yeah, there's going to be some fireworks out there tomorrow. So let's hop into it. So first and foremost, Justin Thomas from the shots gained metrics. Just absolutely due for a massive day tomorrow. Off the tee was absolutely mashing it. Every time I checked him on Shot Tracker, he was hitting it 344 yards off the tee, 358 for one of them, I remember offhand, and one of them was in the 360 range. You would expect that, right? It's wide open. He knows that he can just absolutely lash at it, and he's taking advantage of that, right? He's not a big guy, but he's extremely flexible. And at this type of golf course, this type of birdie fest, he's usually unstoppable, right? It's down to the putter. And today, the putter was a little bit leaky. There were a few putts that he certainly missed that he should have made. But at the same time, that putt on 18, right, that really, kind of drove it home for me, right? It was, in that 8-foot range. It's right around a 50-50 foot putt. It's the last putt of the day. It really leaves, it ingrains a lot of just that feeling of the round in your mind, right? If you make it, you feel pretty good about your round. You miss it, you know that you left some shots out there. I like his mojo. I like his momentum going into Friday's round here. The ball striking numbers, the fact that he has improvement readily available there, or he has that regression available with the putter. $10,400. I'm going to have a just ridiculous amount of him tomorrow. I have a lot for my 4-round stuff, right around 40%. I would imagine in my showdown, which I'm going to be 20 maxing here, right around 55 to maybe even 60% exposure. So in terms of him versus Scotty Scheffler, I am siding towards Justin Thomas. In terms of birdie or better percentage, he is the highest birdie maker on the PGA Tour per round. So obviously, there's a lot of incentive to going to him at a birdie fest. And Scotty Scheffler, like I said, a little bit better at tougher courses, major championships. He puts par on the card a lot more than a lot of his peers. But unfortunately, he's starting to be a little bit more passive now in major championships. API, tough conditions down there in the Florida swing was extremely helpful, right? But, at this point where you having to take this to 25, maybe even 30 under par this week based on how the scoring conditions look right now, not sure if he's really the guy you want to be behind there. Jordan Spieth also due for a really low round. The ball striking just continues to be immaculate. The real X factor here, approach play is always going to be, Jordan Spieth's specialty. He's always going to be, one of the best approach players on the world, particularly if he's in form like he has been of late. Obviously, with the win, pretty solid round here in round 1. The X factor is the off the tee play, though. He's somehow, some way, unbelievably confident off the tee now. I mean, he's hitting his ball. He's immediately looking down, just grabbing his tee because he knows it's perfect every time. I mean, he looks like John Rahm out there. He's one of the only other players that's that confident to do that. Now, when you're doing that, you're completely dialed in. You have your comfortable shot shape, which for Jordan Spieth is a little bit of a left to right bleeder. And if he's hitting fairways all day out here, he actually has a lot of room for improvement with his approach play. Could have been a little bit sharper with that today. Had a few left misses that I recall seeing throughout the day. The putter, of course, has a lot of room for improvement. Last week, won the golf tournament despite losing 2 strokes to the field with the flat stick. I mean, this guy could put up a 10, 12 under par round, like what you saw with Sebastian Munoz. He's one of the few players in the world that we've seen it multiple times. Jordan Spieth just take a place nuclear low. I mean, something in the, like I said, 10 to 12 under par range. He's capable of doing that. Because the putter gets nuclear hot, just like what we saw with Sebastian. I mean, Sebastian made literally everything out there today. It was outrageous at a certain point. The guy literally could not miss. I could see Jordan getting into that same type of groove. He's the type of player to do that. I would argue that of the guys up top, Justin Thomas gets into grooves like that. Same thing with the Jordan Spieth. Sam Burns does. We've seen that. Like when he wins, when he puts himself into contention, it's because he has that 9, 10 under par round. He's one of those ceiling type of players. I'd argue Will Zalatoris is. I'd say outside of that, I mean, those are the true like ceiling type of golfers, right? Where you see it time and time again. These type of players will, post a 3, 4 over par round, but mix in a ton of those 7, 8 under par rounds. So in terms of what we're trying to target, not a surprise that all 4 of those players are in the player pool and are going to be by far my highest exposed plays. So just not a surprise, right? Sam Burns fits that same type of build. He's 1 over par. He's going to be super low owned. He's one of the few plays up top that is going to be single digit owned. So if you're looking for a pivot, somebody that could perhaps just make you unique, taking 1 player alone, Sam Burns could be your guy. Same thing with Will Zalatoris. Yeah, he was 1 under par. So that answers the question from before where he's at. That's really not all that bad. I mean, he might have, fallen back on 18. For all I know, he could have ended up bogeying that hole. Regardless, it's not all that bad. I'm assuming it's the putter with him. I mean, if he was over par, obviously then the ball striking has something to do with it. If he's making a lot of bogeys. Without taking a look at his scorecard, I would imagine it was just a ton of pars out there, right? A lot of boring golf. Lots of fairways, lots of greens, and lots of 2 putts. Sounds a lot like my golf game, to be quite honest with you. I do that a whole lot. We'll catch up on chat. He said he birdied the last. It's good to see. That's some good momentum going into tomorrow, so I do like that. Steven says JT's par on 16 was awesome. Didn't get a chance to see it. I'll have to take a look at ShotLink after I get out of here. I'll have to remind myself of that. Nick says Willie's -1. Yeah, that's not all that bad. Rajesh says Munoz won't be in first by 11 a.m. I agree. I expect somebody to go out there, take it to 5, 6 under par pretty early there. Chandler says, what's going on? Let's go Spieth. Completely agree. I'm on Spieth Island, the Spieth train. I know you're a proud member there as well, Chandler. And Regis says guys are making 30-footers left and right. That really tells you the quality of these greens. Anytime you see lots of those bombs going in, it's because they're just pristine. So if that's the case, we're going to see really low scoring tomorrow. I mean, rather than 30-footers, these guys are going to have 15 to maybe even 10-footers tomorrow because there's no wind. It makes a huge difference with proximity. I mean, they say like every 5 miles an hour of wind adds like 7 foot of proximity. So let's say your average is like 25 feet. 5 mile an hour winds would be like 32 feet, so on and so forth. It's almost a 10 to 15 mile an hour difference between these 2 days. I mean, you're going to see a lot of low scoring tomorrow. I'm pretty excited to see it, to be quite honest with you. I've been playing golf. I played golf today. That's why I wasn't able to watch a lot of the round. I watched a lot of the AM golfers today. I'll be able to watch the guys that were playing in the PM today, tomorrow. I'm taking tomorrow off. I want to see the scoring. I just expect it to be outstanding and be quite a good piece of entertainment, to say the least. I am fading DJ. I hope he plays well. Right? I hope he proves me wrong because he's a key part of my 4-round lineups. One of my sleeper picks this week. But at $9,700, he's playing in the PM wave. I just got to nitpick, right? You got to fade some people. It's just like I'm not playing Scotty Scheffler, who is playing in the morning wave, but that's the reason for that. Hideki is down as a blank, also playing in the PM wave. The one thing I'll say about Hideki is it wouldn't surprise me if he took this play super low because he has an ability to flight the ball. He's, one of the best iron players in the world. A little bit of wind ain't going to bother Hideki Matsuyama. I can promise you that. He's still going to take the play super low. And it's not like there's a lot of wind tomorrow afternoon. Like I said, it's still in, the 10 to 12 mile an hour range, which isn't going to cause much trouble at all. Joaquin Niemann at -5, I would imagine he's pretty primed to go low. Shot -5, ball striking was there, the putter was there. One of the few players that's a consistent gainer both on approach and with the putter, and he's long off the tee, which are really the three hallmarks of a player that I'm looking for this week, right? They got to have the distance to kind of take advantage, boost their birdie or better percentage, perhaps make a few eagles out there. Approach play is always important, right? No matter what golf course you're at, but the putting is the huge X factor I think a lot of people forgot about this week. It's why I faded guys like a Luke List. There's a lot of guys that won over par, a lot of other pieces of chalk that I can't remember the rest of them off the top of my head. I'm sure we'll see them through the player pool here in a second. They were just bad putters. I didn't understand why some of them were like 10, 15% owned. Luke List, right, was one of them that comes to mind. I full faded that, right? The putter's atrocious for List. For him to take it to 7, 8 under par, he's going to have to stick it 2-3 feet 5 or 6 times at the very least, right? He's not going to make a bunch of those 20-footers. So, somebody like Joaquin Niemann, on the other hand, that gains with the putter, I do like that. Taylor Gooch, I can't play. He's playing in the PM. Gosh, I hope he goes out there and takes it low. It's certainly possible. Like I said, the wind's not going to be anything crazy tomorrow afternoon, but the ball striking today was atrocious. I mean, off the tee, the accuracy was all over the place, which didn't cost him strokes, right? Just, it's a little bit advantageous to be in the fairway, able to apply spin to the ball. You can be a little bit more aggressive. But the approach play, perhaps it was because he was in the rough so much, he couldn't put anything close. I mean, he was just missing greens left and right. The around the green play was pretty solid. He's actually putting himself in position a lot more times than not. But he missed far too many 6-footers today. I mean, he had, off the top of my mind, at least 5 or 6 putts for par in that 6 to 7 foot range. And I think he missed all but one, something like that. I mean, it was brutal. He was missing all those 50-50 putts, right? If all those end up going in, he shoots like 3 or 4 under par today, right? Which, that's asking a lot, right? But also asking a lot for him to miss 5 of those 6 50-50 putts, right? So, it looked a lot worse than it really was, even though he was missing all of those greens. So I hope he proves me wrong. There is a glimmer of hope for Taylor Gooch. I mean, the putting was just super unlucky today. We'll have to see. He's usually a good putter too, right? For him to, have the day that he had today, certainly a little bit surprising. Tommy Fleetwood at $8,900. I'm just not interested. I, didn't like him going into the week. Made that pretty clear, and I don't really like him there for Friday either. Johnny Vegas, he'll be playing in the advantageous wave. Not sure how the elbow's doing, right? Wasn't able to see any of them on the coverage or anything like that. Hopefully the elbow's doing okay for Johnny. He didn't withdraw, so that's a good sign. Maverick Neely, he's -3. He could very well be -4 at this point, maybe even better. He still had a few holes left. So keep in mind, guys, with the score tab here, obviously this was computed before we went live. A lot of the players hadn't finished already, so I just took whatever score that they were at and put it on the board here. But he's having a decent day. You would expect him to be relatively popular tomorrow, particularly if he ends up, being in the -4, -5 range by the end of his round. Is popular before the week. I don't really care because he's such a good course fit. Sometimes in Showdown, you just got to eat the chalk, right? So if I'm playing Maverick, maybe that's, I'm using him in conjunction with somebody like a Sam Burns. It's going to be at least relatively low owned and give us a little bit of leverage there. We'll catch up on chat. I need to take a drink here. We have Steven saying, will the tour set up tough pins tomorrow to get scores down? So the reason I'll say no is I think they like seeing scoring fests, especially after the Wells Fargo. It was a little bit of like a slosh fest. It was kind of ugly golf, right? It was super rainy, except for Sunday, of course. I don't know if they're going to do so because, there's a lot of times they're watering greens. They're making it even more advantageous for these players. I mean, I've seen it in person. They're taking little fire trucks out onto the, Honda Classic, for example, to make it a little bit more scoreable. But by the end of the weekend, it's going to get tougher by default because they don't take those onto the golf course on a Friday, on a Saturday, on a Sunday. So I don't think they're going to do it with pin locations, but you are going to see the golf course get a little bit firmer and faster throughout the weekend. It is Texas after all. So it is going to get firmer and faster, a lot faster than other places in the country. So I think it'll be easy here for Friday. I'm expecting it to be, like I said, 2.5, maybe even a 3 under par scoring average. But over the weekend, Steven, that's when you're going to see it get a little bit of teeth. Pro Reactor says Power was hitting every putt. So yeah, that's why I'm staying away from Seamus. You can see him down here as a no. It was a lot of shots gained on the putting. So I would completely agree with you there. That's usually somebody I'm trying to avoid where a lot of their shots gained are coming on the greens. Nick says Lanto or Leishman bounce back. I like both of their chances. I think Lanto's like 1 under par or something like that. Just has to get the flat stick rolling. And for Leishman, I didn't get to see his round. I know, of course, he was on the featured group, so a lot of you guys probably saw his round. He's a volatile player. He's more than capable of turning it around in a hurry. So you can say I have both of them in my poll, Mark Leishman here and Lanto Griffin, actually. They're going to be relatively low owned, 9.6, also just 10% ownership. So you don't have to do anything crazy to get leverage on them. But yeah, I like their chances to bounce back, Nick. Certainly agree with you there. And C. Gianni says, come on, Ortiz. I agree. The guy finally has broken through. He was in a little bit of a tough stretch there, right? Missing some cuts, but 6 under par today. I like what I'm seeing for sure. Yeah, he's a good guy too. He deserves it. That's for sure. Alrighty, where did we leave off? All right, so let's see. We don't have to talk about Jason Day. He shot pretty well. I'm not sure how sustainable it is. We saw what happened last week after he got to the hot start. Completely fell apart over the weekend. And trust me, I'm rooting for the guy. I just don't see it happening. Cameron Champ there at $7,900. He's -2. Kind of unassuming, right? He was playing in the quote-unquote harder conditions. Scoring average was like 1.4 under par in the afternoon. So still better than the average, right? So you don't want to really hold it against him too much. Tomorrow, when it's super receptive, he's going to still be bombing it out there, 330, 340 yards. He's still going to have mid-irons into every single green, even if there's a little bit of added distance because of the dew. I like his chances to go low, especially with some pristine greens. He's a streaky putter. When he starts to make a whole bunch start to go in. So if you see him 3 or 4 under par through 5 or 6 holes, watch out. He could be that guy to take it to 10, 12 under par. But I certainly like him in a showdown type of format where you're looking for that top end upside. We talked about Lanto as a good opportunity for a bounce back. I would certainly agree. Davis Riley's even par. I believe he still had holes left though, so that could have changed by the end of the round. But $7,700, 9.5% owned. He's shown to be extremely volatile, right? He's gone -6, even par, -5, even par. That was at the Wells Championship, something along those lines. That's okay, right? That's what you're looking for in Showdown, right? Even par first round. Perhaps this is one of the rounds where he goes out there, shoots 5, 6 under par. He's going to need that to make the cut. So hopefully he can go out there and do that for anybody that played Davis Riley. That would not be me for 4-round stuff, but hopefully for anybody out there that did. He's also a good kid, just somebody I like rooting for. Quickly becoming one of my favorite golfers, getting up there in the top 10, that sort of thing. Especially seeing him in person, just absolute class act. Him and Justin Thomas were playing together. Obviously, both of them went to Alabama. And just, being able to watch him, obviously I was there for JT, but Davis Riley was there and he was in contention. You can tell that he has the mental capacity to be a champion, right? To go out there and win multiple times on tour, not just be a one-hit wonder that goes out there with his ability, his talents, ends up winning a golf tournament at some point, that type of thing. He has the type of mental capability and mannerisms to go out there and win multiple times. So I'll be keeping my eye on Davis Riley, that's for sure. Sepp Straka at $7,600, kind of unassuming, right? 2 under par, very similar to a Cameron Champ. We know how volatile and, how quickly this guy can take a place low. So I certainly like getting to Sepp Straka. Keith Mitchell, he's just playing in the afternoon. That's the only thing I have against him there. So you could certainly play some Keith Mitchell. Tom Hoge, he looked pretty decent. He shot 4 under par. Pat Gazire made 1 million birdies today, but also a bunch of bogeys. So still only 1 under par. He needs something low tomorrow afternoon, so maybe you could go to him. I do have Matthew Wolf in the pool. I know at one point he was like 5 over par today. I was on the golf course, guys, like I was saying, and I saw him at like 5 over. I just exit him off. You guys know on like the PGA Tour app, you can like favorite players. I'll favorite everyone in my player pool for the week so I can track them easily. I took him out of my favorites. It's like, I don't want to see this anymore. Apparently he's 2 over par. Right? So when I imported this here, he was just 2 over par. So I guess ended up kind of coming back towards the end of the event. But even if he was 6 over par, I'd play him because he's shown an ability to just completely shake off the round before him and go out there and take the place low. For as much, we talk about his mental game, it seems like he has the ability to bounce back, even if he has a really rough round like he had here. And just from an upside standpoint, he certainly has the firepower to take this place low. Same thing with Sahith Theegala. He's even par. He had a rough start. He was 3 over par at one point, so it was also a surprise to see him get back to even par, to be quite honest with you. But also a volatile player. A few weeks ago, I remember saying, that he's a very streaky player, where he went out there, I believe he shot like 5 over par. I forget what golf tournament it was. Immediately went out and shot 8 under the next day. It was the round of the day, ended up making the cut on the number. So he's no stranger of turning it around in a hurry. So I do like him at $7,400. Moving down to the 73 range, Ryan Palmer had a decent round. I played him just in case this week. I played 8% of them, just hoping that he'd turn it around, and it looks like he has to this point. So perhaps there's something cooking there. Dylan Fratelli at $7,200, hometown kid. I liked him because of that, also because of the recent form. So I could see getting to him. Grayson Sigg is 1 over. Maybe he's even par, depends on how his last few holes went. But volatile player, super aggressive, pops with the putter from time to time. You need a lot of things to come together for Grayson Sigg to have a ceiling round. But pretty much any time I'm playing Showdown and he's on the slate, I'm going to play Grayson Sigg because he's kind of like a Sam Burns, obviously like a Walmart version of Sam Burns. Where Sam Burns is the Bentley, that kind of thing, but he's still got the volatility in him. You don't want to trash the Walmart version too much there. Mark Hubbard at 72, he's got a hot putter from time to time. You can see that. Aaron Rai, more of a consistent play. Now he's quote unquote in my player pool because I love him cash. Now Aaron Rai is like the cash cornerstone. Anytime he's on a slate and you're playing cash, you have to have Aaron Rai because his ball striking, his approach play is just so consistent. He never puts himself in trouble. He's going to hit, 13, 14 greens pretty much every single time he's out there. He's not the most consistent putter, so he's not always going to put up a ceiling performance, even though he has so many birdie looks. But he's going to get to 2-3 under par, almost every single time. So from a ceiling perspective, not sure how much I like it, but I do like it when we're considering it from a cash perspective. JJ Spawn, people forget that he won just a few weeks ago, 6 under par. I think that's accurate. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. If it is, even better. Even if it's not, JJ Spawn, a very high upside play. Someone in chat, go ahead and let me know if that's accurate. It might be. I do import it just based on VLOOKUP, so it should be accurate, but that surprises me. I didn't realize he went that low. Nate Lashley at even par. I can see it. He's not in my pool, but certainly has some upside. The ball striking ability has been there over his last 24 measured rounds. David Lipsky. Excuse me, guys. A little bit of scratchy there with the throat. But anyways, David Lipsky, very streaky player, very volatile player. Gets the hot putter from time to time and takes it super low. We've seen him be first round leader at least 2 times over the last 3 months. Put himself in contention a few times as well. Lose first round leader last second a few times as well. Ended up betting him both of those times, unfortunately. But either way, I like him anytime we're on Showdown, kind of like a Grayson Sigg. Matthias Schwab, great start to the golf tournament, 5 under par. We'll be playing in the morning tomorrow. Aggressive player, very accurate off the tee, but very solid with his long irons. Just kind of what you need here at TPC Craig Ranch. So I could see myself getting in there. Patrick Rogers, he made an eagle today. He's just a volatile, very aggressive player, long off the tee, gains with the putter. You can see on bent grass, it is one of his better surfaces. So I like getting to him. Maybe he goes out there and makes a couple eagles tomorrow rather than just the one. I could see getting to Smotherman. He obviously started off pretty strongly there with a 4 under par round. Rory Sabatini, I could see getting to. When he gets hot, when he gets it rolling, he tends to carry momentum. So the fact that he's, pretty well under par there at 3 under, that is a solid sign of things to come. Bill Hotzler has been playing decent to this point, 3 under par. He's long off the tee. He has the putter that we're looking for. So I like the price tag at $6,700 too. I think that's more than fair. Adam Schenk, I have him in my 4-round stuff. I don't love him for Showdown. He is playing in the afternoon wave, but great to see that he started at 4 under. Bramlin at 1 under, long off the tee, very streaky with the putter. So hopefully he can get that thing working. Adam Svensson, he started off a little bit shaky. He was 1, maybe even 2 over par at one point, but -3 the last time we checked. I know he wasn't done with his round, so that's pending. Hopefully he can keep that up, but I like how he was trending to this point. Hayden Buckley, Vince Whaley, volatile players you could take a look at. Paul Barjon, very solid ball striker you could take a look at. Sung Kang, he is a member here, so obviously very familiar with these greens. Maybe gets it rolling in that department. And Brendan Hagee, very similar to a Bramlett, super long off the tee, and also a little bit streaky with the putter. So if he can get that working, maybe he could put something up. He's super cheap at $6,300, but outside of that, I mean, there's not really anyone else I like. Side note, Justin Leonard is even par, so he shot better than I believe at least 40 players in this field. And if you don't know who Justin Leonard is, he's the announcer that you hear all the time on Golf Channel, right? So, and the one that a lot of people give shit to. So, I was impressed by it. I know actually I had someone tag me today talking about it too. I would agree. I was catch me if you can, if you're down there in chat. I agree. Pretty much anybody that's been, dissing the guy probably needs to shut up because he went out there and he beat a good majority of the field today. We'll catch up on questions and then we'll hop into some strategy talk over there from the lineup creation side. Gianni says, I have a big parlay with him. That's awesome. So I'm assuming it's with him to win. So hopefully he can go out there and win for you. Gianni says, Matsuyama couldn't make a putt to save his life. I hope tomorrow is better. Yeah, he couldn't make a putt for his life, but he's still in a pretty good spot. So I like his chances to maybe even, improve on that tomorrow. Shoot maybe something 7-8 under par instead. I think that'd be more than adequate. Steven says, Scott appeared to be in good form. Primo ball striker, good round today. I could see that too. So he's teeing off in the morning wave tomorrow. Also a little bit of a streaky putter. Gianni says, yes, Adam Scott, very impressive as always. And Bison says, I played CT Pan, so proud of my play. That sucks. Yeah, I wasn't on CT Pan this week, so I don't have the withdraw on my player poll, but sucks to see from your side. From my side, I like to see it because it makes our contest a little bit more rake-free. But obviously, at some point, I hope that they just lock tee times. Lock your lineups in your player pool based on tee times. So if somebody like a CT Pan were to withdraw, you could either get the replacement and have them in your lineup, or by somebody like Pan, that withdrew in the morning, his tee time's not until the PM wave, use that salary and just swap to somebody else. I digress. That's never going to happen. We've asked DraftKings 1,000 times at this point to do that. Never got an answer. They pretty much always say, blah, blah, blah. It's our terms and conditions. Would be nice though. Obviously that would save some people some money. Gianni says, Gsluke, not seeing a lot of guys on the page one of the leaderboard that played last weekend. I think that took a toll on them. It was a brutal weekend. Wouldn't surprise me. It was difficult conditions too. It's hard to change your mindset from par is a decent score from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday out there to this week. Par is a horrible score, especially in some of those easy par fours or, of course, all the par fives. It's hard to make that mindset change. So maybe it's the physical tool that you're kind of talking about, or maybe it's even the mental change. Either way, I would agree. Rage says, yeah, -6 is right. Okay, word. Gianni says, yes, he must win. This week is a disaster. I suck. That stinks, man. Hopefully you do better this week, or I should say tomorrow. Antonio Esparza says, Sam Burns looked like he didn't care out there. I know I saw him. He was -2 at one point, so he's playing pretty well. I couldn't tell you because I wasn't watching the broadcast. I can just tell you that from a shots gain perspective, he wasn't very sharp with the putting today. The approach play also wasn't very sharp. Still gained off the tee. So it kind of did what he does when he's struggling, which is not look all that sharp in the two categories that he's solid in, right? He's kind of flat in those two categories, right? Because he's going to lose around the green, off the tee. He's still going to gain to the field pretty much no matter what. It's when he's not sharp on approach and not sharp with the putter, like he's kind of flat out there. So I would imagine that was the cause for that, Antonio. But I think he has a lot of more than a chance to turn it around there for Friday. Like I said, pretty much not going to be any wind out there at all. And I would expect scores to be even better than here on Friday. So for guys that are teeing off in the morning wave, more than capable. I mean, if they're even 2 over par, right, like a Matthew Wolff, they have more than opportunity to go out there and make the cut. So if people are going to be a little bit hesitant to play them in Showdown, which is, of course, what we're focusing on right now, I'm going to try and take advantage of that because, frankly, they're still just as good as play as they were just one round ago. I'm not going to let a one-round sample size cloud that too much. And you guys know with ownership, that's exactly what happens, right? People sway to the guys that are playing well. So if we sort this by score, Munoz is going to be nearly 20% owned. I believe I had him projected for like 18%. People are going to play a ton of Pereira, KH Lee, Malnati. Probably not a lot of Lauer and Wilshire. I will admit that. They'll probably stay a little bit lower owned, but Seamus Power, JG Spawn, Ortiz, Schwartzel, all these type of players are just going to get far, far too much ownership, at least 10%, I'd say, in pretty much all of those plays. Whereas in reality, it's a one-round sample size. You're talking about a golf course that does favor a specific skill set. It's much more valuable to project players that way, right, than to just go, this player played good in round 1, they're going to play good in round 2. There's slight correlation from round to round on the PGA Tour, right, but it's not a very strong correlation, right? It's a little bit. I can't give you an exact number because it changes for the event, right? Changes over time, obviously, but it's not nearly as strong as what people actually give it credit for. All right, anyways, let's talk about some strategy here for large field GPPs. So this is going to be for the 20,000 entry contest. Of course, $20,000, $50,000 type of payout to first contest. We're really trying to win first and win first alone. We don't want to duplicate ourselves with pretty much anyone in the field. We also want to make sure that we're trying to maybe leave salary on the table, or at the very least take somebody to differentiate ourselves. So there's 2 ways you could do this. I'm going to show you both ways. The first would be to differentiate by players, right, by some of your player choice. And in that type of lineup, you just want to try and make pivots, right? Now, I know somebody at the beginning mentioned that a lot of the chalk isn't playing well this week, like Adam Hadman, Sam Burns, Taylor Gooch, a lot of those relatively high-owned plays. At the same time, right, a lot of the lower-owned plays are playing well. That's exactly what you're hoping happens in GPP when you take this type of stance, right? So the prime suspects for that would be the guys that play badly, right? Like a Sam Burns. Taylor Gooch, I'm not as bullish on because he is playing in the afternoon, but taking guys that just kind of weren't themselves for their first day is going to be a way to differentiate yourself. So if you started off with a Sam Burns and a Will Zalatoris, it's probably enough right there to differentiate yourself. So let's see what the rest of the lineup would look like. If we go down to the $8,000 range, I like trying to get to a Mark Leishman. I talked about him as a potential bounce back candidate. Now, you don't have to take all pivots, right? You can still go to somebody that, you expect to be relatively high owned, somebody that would fit that type of bill. If you go up here to the $8,000 range, I know somebody mentioned Adam Scott. If you wanted to put him into the lineup, you could. Maverick McNeely should be relatively chalky, so I would expect him to definitely draw a few eyes. Because we're playing Sam Burns and Willie Z, also Mark Leishman should be relatively low owned. We can pretty much play whoever we want. So if we go down to the bottom of the 7K range, go ahead and wrap this up. We can take another piece of chalk here. If you wanted to take KH Lee, not all that excited about it, to be honest with you. You could go ahead and do so. You have more than enough salary to do that. If you wanted to go up to $7,600, take Sebastian Munoz at 78 if you wanted to. You could go ahead and do that. But for the sake of the video, I'm going to build how I would, right? If I was going out there and hand building a lineup, I'd be drawn to Matthew Wolff, right? I talked about him as a really solid bounce back candidate. So I like him there at 74. And lastly, we have 69. Not worried about leaving salary on the table. We have plenty of pivots in our lineup. And I like Lipsky. Lipsky, very solid putter, tied for 39th right now. Same thing with McNeely. And then a few guys further down on the leaderboard, right? There's some of our pivots, like a Sam Burns, Willie Z, Matthew Wolff, for example. So this would be one way to differentiate your lineup. Now, the one thing I'll say, doing it in this fashion, you do, quote unquote, give up or compromise on your median projection, right? Because there is a slight correlation, like I said, from round 1 to round 2 scoring, but it's not a massive correlation. So you're giving up maybe I'm just making this off the top of my head at this point. I'm not doing any calculations here, but maybe like a 5% edge, quote unquote, with your projections, right? You're taking guys that are projected a little bit lower, right, but are also going to be a lot lower owned. It's going to be easy to leverage them to the field. That would be one way to make a unique lineup. The other way would be to take guys that you expect to be popular and you don't care, right? You can still do that in large field GPPs as long as you're careful about your lineup construction. That would be leaving salary on the table and also forcing yourself into the 6K range. By forcing yourself to take somebody, let's say in the mid 6K range, or maybe that mid to upper 6K range, those guys usually sub 1.5, sub 2% owned in showdowns. Pretty much makes you unique by default, particularly if you leave $200 on the table. So if you want to be a chalk donkey, you want to go out there and just play all the super popular plays tomorrow, I'll show you how you can do that here. So first off, JT is going to be royally popular tomorrow. I would also expect probably Jordan Spieth to be extremely popular tomorrow. But like I said, I absolutely love both of those plays for tomorrow's slate. If you wanted to do that and you wanted to make sure that you're unique, you're really going to have to be careful, particularly if you take chalky plays here in the 7K range. Let's say you really think Sebastian Munoz has it tomorrow. Excuse me. Let's say you really want to play Munoz too, right? He's going to be like 20% owned on the slate. Put him in there at $7,800. You can even play him. Let's say you want to take even more chalk, right? You like really want to push the envelope with your ownership here. Put in Mito Pereira in at $7,600. Now you may tell yourself, right, there's no way I'm going to make this unique, right? These four players are all going to be at least 20% owned here in tomorrow's slate. You still can, right? This is how you do it. So you go down here to like $7,100. You can see we have $71,500 remaining. Try and take somebody that you still think has a high projection, right? We're trying to take the quote unquote higher projected lineup, but also make sure that it's unique, right? So I still really like David Lipsky here. Played pretty decent round one, can get that hot putter working. So let's go ahead and put him in there. We have $7,400 remaining. Sorry, guys. Hopefully it's not too loud. I ideally want to leave like $500, maybe even $600 on the table. And honestly, guys, if you wanted to take Carlos Ortiz too, now this is a lineup that I wouldn't enter. I don't necessarily like Mito tomorrow. I don't necessarily like Carlos Ortiz tomorrow either. This lineup, though, is taking a ton of chalk for tomorrow's slate and is almost certainly going to be unique. Because first off, you have a Lipsky who's going to be a little bit lower owned, probably closer to 4 or 5% owned for tomorrow. Not close to the 20% like a lot of these other players are going to be, but we're leaving $600 on the table here. Less than 1% of lineups, in fact, less than 0.5% of lineups leave more than $600 on the table. So you're already pinning yourself into a corner in that type of aspect. But also in terms of lineup construction, you get a lot of help there. So if you're going to go that route to try and go ahead and differentiate, you can play all the chalk that you want. It's not my favorite way to do it because I don't like playing a lot of chalk, right? I like kind of spending all my salary, just taking pivots at certain type of ownership ranges. But I just want to show you the alternative out there because I know there's people that like playing themselves a little bit of chalk, and I can't really blame you from time to time. Now let's talk about cash. So for a cash contest, the focus changes completely. It's all about median projection, all about the 50th percentile performance. And for me, I usually like building here in the 9K range, but it's not nearly as strong as most slates. So I'm just going to go ahead and put JT in there. I'm also going to put Jordan Spieth in there. Now it's a little bit expensive. You can see we're already down to $7,400, but we should be able to make this work. If we go down to the 8K range, my mind is drawn. I mean, in terms of median projection, right? We're looking for guys that are playing in the morning for sure, because there's going to be maybe a half stroke, 3/4 of a stroke difference between the two waves. I mean, Mark Leishman, even though he didn't play well, you'd imagine that he scores well in a fantasy sense. Guy makes a ton of putts. He's extremely aggressive out there, so I don't hate going his way. Down towards the middle of the 7K range, Keith Mitchell still mispriced. He was $7,500 to start the week. Probably should have been $8,500, so I could take him there. Towards the bottom of the 7K range now, I mean, let's see, at $7,000, I'd ideally like to take someone, maybe $7,100 we could do it. Aaron Rye, like I said, is pretty much a lock for cash because he is so consistent. And now at $7,000, let's see. $6,900 perhaps. We could go. We may actually be able to spend up a little bit. So if we go a little bit cheaper here, you could take Smotherman because of his ball striking. Now, I know he's playing in the PM. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Smotherman's ball striking is extremely consistent. Gains off the tee, going to gain on approach, very similar to an Aaron Rai, which makes him have a relatively high floor. It's usually in that 2 to 3 under par range, especially at a golf course like this. We have an extra $200. We go ahead and spend it elsewhere. So we could go ahead and spend up from Leishman. Our options would be Seamus Power or Leishman or Kokrak. You go to Kokrak, right? Kokrak played well. He's playing in the morning, so you like that from Jason Kokrak, and he makes a ton of birdies. So in terms of a cash lineup, the rest of the four, I mean, the first two, I think pretty much non-negotiable. Plays that I really like here for round two, but the rest of them, can kind of mix and match the guys that you like the most. But make sure that they're gaining off the tee. Make sure that they're gaining on approach. If they're a solid putter like a Kokrak is, the rest of them, Mitchell, Ryan, some other men, not the best putters on the PGA Tour. That's a bonus. That's why we like guys like a Jordan Spieth and Jason Kokrak, and maybe even Justin Thomas, right? He's gaining a quarter of a stroke per round with the putter over his last 24. That's pretty darn good for him, especially compared to what he's done historically. We'll go ahead and wrap this up here, guys. We'll go ahead and catch up down on chats. C. Johnny says, good stuff, Luke. Thanks. I appreciate you, dude. Of course, make sure you guys stop by tomorrow. We're going to be doing the same thing. So doing that for round 3 and 4. I will have a prize picks video dropping sometime in the next half an hour to an hour. So if that's your sort of thing, make sure to keep an eye out for that. Hopefully tomorrow we can do pretty solid. There's some guys at +1, like I said, Taylor Gooch, Sam Burns. I'm hoping can go out there, have a ceiling performance, and make the cut. That'd be pretty nice, at least from a 6 of 6 percentage. But more importantly, hopefully we have some of those guys at -4, like a Justin Thomas, for example, go out there shooting like 8, 9 under par tomorrow morning. It's going to be exciting to see. Like I said, I'm expecting perhaps record scoring conditions for these players, perhaps 20, 25 players tomorrow that shoot 7, 8 under par or better. It's going to be really fun to watch on TV, to be quite honest with you. So sit back tomorrow afternoon, maybe grab your beverage of choice, whether it's a soda or a cold beer, that type of thing, and enjoy the show. So I'm looking forward to talking about how many of our guys ended up making the cut tomorrow. Hopefully nobody that ended up blowing it, and best of luck for your round 2.